and go. We are back at the In the KNOVA Podcast.
Yes.
Making a more informed world.
Sure, that's a great slogan.
Yeah.
That you just
I'll
pulled out there.
pull it out there. We'll work some different slogans in as we go. Like, in the KNOVA Podcast, the more you know, the more you can decide.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, just come up with that on the spot. Well, we're here with Courtney
Pelitera.
So you are a registered dietitian, nutrition coach, and I'll let you introduce yourself and fill us in on where you're from, but we'll obviously be talking probably a lot about nutrition topics again today.
Yeah.
We recently had met with another girl who had a pretty significant nutrition background, but she focused more in the sport of CrossFit and working with like kind of higher level clients as well as average people. But I'm interested in somewhat to see how your guys' philosophies compare.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be that different, or anything like that. But anyway, tell us about yourself. Where you come from? What's your...
Yeah, so I'm Courtney Pelitera. I work for University of Rochester as a registered dietitian. I'm actually technically a clinical nutrition specialist. So in the hospital, I don't actually work with food at all. I only work with people on tube feeds and TPN, which is getting nutrients like through your veins. Okay. So you don't even chew or swallow or anything like that.
Interesting.
So for
none of the fun stuff.
Yeah. So my private practice, which is like more my passion project, why I became a dietitian, I work with athletes and usually like people trying to lose weight also. And that's kind of where my passion is. My undergrad degree I have in sport and exercise science. I grew up in Buffalo. My dad was one of the OG strength conditioning coaches for Canisius College. So I've grown up in gyms my whole life. My dad's always owned a gym. And he used to manage Golds out here like back in the 80s. He has his own gym now that he like completely redid a firehouse.
Cool. That's really cool.
So fitness was never an option for us. It's in our blood.
Way of life.
Yeah, totally.
So that's how I got like interested in sports and fitness. But yeah.
Cool. Where'd you go for your degree?
So exercise science, I went to Gannon University in Erie, Pennsylvania. Everyone else in my degree was a PT student, so they all did physical therapy, and I was like, I don't want to touch people that much. So I was like, what can I do with this degree? But nutrition, it was a roundabout way. I spent way too many years in school to be a dietitian. I should be a doctor.
Yeah.
But and then I went for my master's and second bachelor's combined to Dewville College in Buffalo.
Okay.
So that's where I did all of my clinical rotations for dietetics to be a dietitian.
Okay.
Would you like me to explain the difference between dietitian and nutritionist?
So that's exactly, and not only that, and then later in, I hear people about the personal trainers, everything. Everyone likes to say they're a nutrition coach. And now, I'm a licensed health coach, which is not like a dietitian or nutritionist exactly like people think a lot of times. But I try to explain the difference, but sometimes I don't actually, like you were just about to explain, actually know the difference between like our RD, registered dietitian, and nutritionist, and then even, I guess, nutrition coach, if that's even a real thing.
Yeah. So this is weird. I made an Instagram post on this, and this is my like most shared like Instagram post I've ever made, so I didn't realize that people didn't know the difference. So a registered dietitian, we have to have at least a bachelor's degree. Starting in 2024, we'll need a master's degree. I already got that out of the way, thank God. We have 1,200 hours of supervised clinical practice. We have to take a registration exam. And what am I missing? There's another key thing that I'm missing here. There's another big difference. It's not going to come to me.
Is there anything you have to do to continue?
Yes, that's what it is.
Like continuing ed or to like continue your registration?
Yep. So it's 75 hours of continuing education credits every 5 years. So, they keep up on us. I have to submit everything every 5 years to stay registered. So a nutritionist, actually, there's no designation. There's nothing stopping anyone from calling themselves a nutritionist. So you can get an online certification and become a nutritionist. You could take a class that's 5 hours after work one day and become a nutritionist. It doesn't really require anything. Usually there's some kind of test that people use, but there's really no designation. The biggest difference is that a registered dietitian is qualified, whereas a nutritionist, you don't really always know for sure that they're qualified.
Okay, yeah, and I'm surprised it's not even... I know that, I guess what people call themselves nutrition coaches or nutritionists. Yeah. I always kind of looked at it as hopefully they know their scope of practice, where they're not trying to diagnose, treat, or solve actual health problems. Where I knew a registered dietitian, I guess you can medically prescribe diets and food and et cetera to solve and resolve sicknesses or disorders and stuff like that. Yep.
So hospitals legally cannot hire a nutritionist. Right. They have to hire a dietitian. Not even hospitals. Any government organization. I've worked for group homes for kids with autism, that kind of thing. Anything run by the government, you have to hire a registered dietitian. Cool. Just to make sure they're qualified.
And so I would imagine, as a registered dietitian, your scope of education on nutrition related topics probably even supersedes a lot of doctor type, formal medical doctors, really, right? As far as the detail that you would go into in your education.
Yeah, especially the tube feeding that I do and that kind of stuff for the hospital. Doctors don't want to touch that. Right. Usually they're tell me what to do and I'll write the script.
Yeah. And I would imagine, like you were saying, you had been in school long enough where you should be a doctor. It's I'm surprised that the nutrition field hasn't medically become another discipline. How there's obviously gastro whatevers and cardiac this, and I'm surprised just being a nutrition or someone along the lines of registered dietitian hasn't become a field of medicine more specific in medical schools.
Yeah. I think there probably is. I work really closely with a nurse practitioner that is very specifically nutrition. And I actually thought about going back to NP school for it. But I actually have, it's called your CNSC. It's your Certified Clinical Nutrition Support Specialist. So that's the highest designation that the hospital would use, or on that kind of level. But still just a registered dietitian. I can't write scripts. I can't.
Yeah. Okay. Still, that's great. Awesome. All right. So how do we stay healthy and live forever?
Well, you eat food.
Oh. Good.
I think that's because I've been following you on Instagram for a while now, and I think that I love your message of all the foods should be in your diet.
Yes.
Now, of course, there's probably caveats to that, a few, right? I don't know. I try not to eat packaged food, or can you kind of dive into a little bit of your
so I think there's definitely going to be different nutrition philosophies. My philosophy is that all foods fit, that really, as long as you're aware of what you're eating. That's the first thing I try to do with any of my clients, is just try to create awareness of what they're consuming. So a lot of times that looks like tracking first, and that's just even weighing food, saying okay, this is what an actual portion of peanut butter looks like, not the spoonful that I just shoveled in my mouth. And just sometimes even just that little piece is so eye-opening to people that it's oh my gosh, okay, this might be why my goals aren't being reached, why I'm not losing weight, why I'm not improving my performance, whatever the goal is. It definitely depends on the person, but sometimes that's just the key right there. But I really believe that really we can make all foods, and I post all the time. I go to Chick-fil-A usually every other Friday for lunch, and there's no reason that shouldn't fit into your diet. That's protein. That's all it is protein, carbohydrates, fat. That's all any food is. Yes. Right? It's not any more complicated. We don't need to make it more complicated. It gets made complicated by everyone.
Remember, I used to have this personal training client, and for whatever reason, him and his friends, they'd go to Burger King on Fridays or Saturdays or something like that, and he'd always be because he was trying to just be as healthy as he could and perform well, and he'd always be I gotta go to Burger King again. I don't know. I was just be first of all, I was what? He told me the whole situation about just that's where they like to meet, just a thing from school or whatever, and I'm all right, don't eat the fries and don't drink any soda, and you could. Probably a burger itself is probably macro friendly to you. If you just eat the burger, have yourself a Whopper, enjoy it. Yeah. He's really? And I explained to him hey, we looked up the nutrition facts, and I'm yeah, dude, It's just another meal.
McDonald's grilled chicken sandwiches.
And then I was like, you start to deep fry things and drink sugary drinks. That might not be healthy, but the burger itself is just food.
I think it's the education, though, that the consumer needs to understand what they could or could not have. I don't even like to say could or could not have, but you know what I'm saying. Like, what is healthier for them to order if they're in the situation where they're like, oh, I'm on the thruway and I need to stop for food, and it's McDonald's or, Auntie Anne's.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I would imagine there's got to be at least, with that context, like everything is, there's a room, back myself up. There's a place for like every food in your diet, right? Yeah. But there's got to be some things I would imagine, or at least in my opinion, are universally bad for you. Yeah. Anything in particular that jumps out? Like, do you have any absolutely don'ts, if you can help it, kind of foods? If you can help it?
I really don't. The foods that you're allergic to, the foods that you don't like. Okay. If you're like going for like a donut, that's going to be like a high fat food with no really other like nutrient dense. I'm not getting any vitamins. I'm not getting any minerals from that. So then I would look at that and say, okay, well, that's basically just fat and maybe some carbohydrate. How's that going to fit into I'm big on macro counting. How does that fit into my macros? It probably doesn't, so I'm going to pick something else so that I can eat dinner later and be happy with my dinner later.
I definitely find, like, when coaching different clients, like, it's very difficult for them to start counting macros. And I think macros is awesome. Kind of how I live. I'm not super anal about it, but I have a basic guideline every day of what I'm shooting for and what I'm working at. Yeah. Now, do you find that people pick up macros, or the way you coach macros, maybe?
Yeah. Again, it depends on the education. So a lot of times when I start, we're working more so on food relationships sometimes, which is a huge component that counting macros is great, but it doesn't account for. I think that you have to have that relationship with food first. That you're like not like, oh, that cheeseburger or whatever is the devil, and like I'm gonna mess up my whole diet just from eating that cheeseburger. You have to have a better mentality about that first before we can move into like just counting macros. So usually when I start out, I don't even give people macros because I'm like, okay, let's eat a protein with every meal first. Yes. Let's eat a vegetable for snacks or a fruit for snacks, and not go for that bag of chips or whatever.
That's almost exactly how I do. Very similar. So we talk about food quality. By that I just mean like, real food, whole food, ideally, and then minimally processed if at all. Yeah. Cool, perfect. But I see what you're saying about the the relationship with food. That is something that I find some people either get over quick or struggle dramatically with. Yeah. When you have people that struggle dramatically, is there any like go-to process or conversation that you've had success with?
It depends on the person for sure, and that's the answer for any nutrition question.
Right, of course, it depends. Right, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But lately I've been having, I have clients kind of like reflect on themselves. So sometimes that looks like journaling for them. Sometimes that looks like, next time we meet, I want you to tell me your proudest accomplishment and the best thing about yourself. So it's kind of working on the relationship with their self. It's so much mental health is involved with nutrition. Nutrition is so personal that it's hard sometimes to get past that. Sometimes you have to get past that before you can even accomplish anything else.
Absolutely. And then some people that have existing mental health, depression or anxiety or both or other, and then they try to take on the food problem. If that, the health problem, we'll call it. I've seen that in handfuls of different clients of different genders, ages, everything. And I don't know the answer all the time. I just try to help them keep between the yellow lines, so between the white lines on the road, and try to keep their health on the forefront. But I guess if going out the topic of mental health and food, is there anything you find that really helps people, I guess, improve or promote their best mental health? Any diet habits, nutrition habits?
Yeah. So I have found that like the planning process of like, hey, instead of worrying about what we're going to eat every day, we're going to plan it ahead of time. Like Sunday, if that looks like a Friday night dinner planning to you, that's great. Like, I think that if like the trendy thing to do is like Sunday meal prep, right? But if it doesn't have to be Sunday meal prep, if it has to be Friday night, if it had to be Wednesday night meal prep, I don't care. but making that list, I have people that grocery shop on like Wednesday at 6 a.m. I'm like, great, fine. But planning that out and like having it written down, like I'm a big fan of like whiteboard. Let's write everything down so it's visible. And then knowing what's in your fridge, that it's ready for you, that you don't have to be worried about it, and that it's ready to go and it's going to be healthy because you already made it. Awesome. So yeah,
that is a great idea as a whiteboard. I have not really experimented with using that with clients.
I have like 4 whiteboards all across my apartment.
I have one for myself. My wife and I write stuff on the board.
Yeah.
And in the kitchen, or the one I have one in the bedroom as well. For random things. I mean, sometimes life goals, but a lot of times it is like the meal prep or who's cooking dinner and like put your requests here. And we're pretty healthy. We try to have delicious meals that are also healthy, so that we can gorge ourselves on it. But it's like, you just ate like a mountain of vegetables. You're full, but your calorie total for the day is like right on par for whatever, or so you don't. I know you don't have anything that you said, nothing specific that was like an absolute not have. Do you have anything that's like a must have, or things that are a must have in your diet?
I'm trying to think now. You put me on the spot. Oh. What I'm usually promoting is protein intake, honestly. Yep. That's a huge thing. I think when people aren't tracking and they're not aware of what they're eating, even myself, it's usually like 50 grams a day. And I'm like, okay. Yep.
Yeah. Now with that, it's the same thing brought up multiple times over and over on all sorts of different platforms. People talking health and stuff is getting enough protein. Why do you think that people don't? Is it just not in enough food, or they don't why is there such a disconnect with people not getting enough protein in their daily diet?
So I think the people that I'm talking about that aren't getting enough protein are people training, athletes, I'm sure CrossFit athletes. I work with a lot of runners too. I'm like I used to work at Fleet Feet. I run with Rochester Running Company all the time. Athletes that are using that protein for muscle building. So why I think it's not in their diet is sometimes that they're not aware. Okay. Because vegetables
they're not getting enough protein relative to how active or how much they're synthesizing it in their diet every day or in their system.
Right. And then when they're losing, and especially with weight loss, I think protein is essential because otherwise you're going to lose muscle. If you don't meet your protein needs and went from not lifting at all to all of a sudden lifting 3 days a week, you're going to lose that muscle. You're not going to lose the fat that you want to lose.
So not having enough protein in your diet, and then you're training hard. You're basically losing out. You're breaking down faster than you can put it back in. Yeah. You hear that, people? Coach Matt knows a thing or two. These are things that I definitely talked to a lot of athletes about. Yeah. And I'm like, I want someone with even more credibility to tell them the same thing I've been saying. Those are things I only, a lot of stuff that I teach clients and stuff or try to pass on is stuff I've experimented with my own diet or I've had other people have success with. So it's a lot of... I didn't sit in a laboratory and do the research. I just experimented with my own things. These are pros and cons. I obviously read, literature or whatever, journals and everything that comes out, and you listen to the pros or so thing, on podcasts or anything. But sometimes just to have the same thing said by somebody with yes. It's like sometimes you give all these tips to people on how to do a muscle up or a different clean and jerk. You say the same thing to them 50 times and they're like, yeah, maybe, okay, yeah, I'll try. And then they watch Rich Froning do it in a video one day and they're like, Rich Froning does it this way. I'm like, that's what I've been telling you for 6 years now. Or something, but that might be an extreme example. But cool.
What about vegetarian, vegan?
Some of our vegetarians here are a little outspoken and I think they may be a little bit underserved at times by the CrossFit.
Sure.
So I've been trying to give back to them a little more, we do a Nutrition Daily blog, and I address different topics, diets, facts about food or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I've been trying to give back to my vegetarians, not to be so biased. So any thoughts on that?
I mean, definitely with that, you're going to be eating a ton more volume. Like the volume of your diet is just going to be significantly higher than someone eating meat, just in order to meet those protein goals. I trained for a half marathon. This is like I was in school, I think. I trained for a half marathon. I was like, I want to see if I can do this vegan. Let's see how this goes.
Wow, not even like vegetarian, just like you went for it.
I'm not really a big meat eater to begin with. Lately I've actually increased my meat intake a lot. Mm-hmm. But I don't that's not foods that I crave. It's not like meat. So it actually wasn't that hard for me. But I think supplementation with some of the vegan products that have come out, or even the vegetarian products, are so much better than they used to be. I'm a big fan of Vega protein. It's a type of protein powder. It was developed by triathletes. I believe Brendan Brazier is his name. He was like a Kona. Kona's like the big championship for triathlon. Okay. But it has complete proteins in it, which is ideal, right? Because soy protein is a huge complete protein. Pea protein is and then pumpkin. So this one, the Vega mixes the pea and the pumpkin protein. So them combined creates a complete protein. Do we need to go over what complete protein is?
I know the amino acid profile, but maybe just explain complete protein for the fans at home.
So there's 9 essential amino acids that we need to eat. A complete protein provides all of that. So any meat product is going to have all 9 essential amino acids. But
by essential, it means your body doesn't make them.
Correct. Okay. Correct. So there's 20 amino acids total, 9 of which we need to consume because our body does not produce them. Okay. So with vegetarian, a lot of times, like when we're talking about like vegetarians and stuff, and we think about the classic example is beans and rice, right? You have to combine those to create a complete protein. So same thing with the pea and the pumpkin protein powders. You have to combine them to create a complete protein.
Okay. So when you're eating a ton more volume on the vegetarian diet, obviously a lot more carbohydrates. So I was actually today, the recipe that I put out there for on our daily page was this thing I used to make. I experimented again with being vegetarian for like all of 2 weeks. Like it was a rough 2 weeks too. But it was basically I'd have like a half cup lentils, half cup beans, and then I put avocado and I put some salsa, and I used to season it with just like taco seasoning. It tastes good.
Oh, that sounds good.
And so it's not bad. It's a good meal, but it's really, even in that meal, is only like maybe 14 grams of protein, and then it's like 47 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to up that up, and it could be a cup, a cup and a cup, double the recipe. Does it that much more carbohydrates in like a very fibrous bean and lentil form? Is that as impactful? It's like other carbohydrates in your system as far as like, the effect on your insulin, blood sugars, things like that?
So those carbohydrates that are going to take a long time to process, like whole grains, beans, that kind of thing, it's not going to spike up your blood sugar like crazy unless, we're talking normal healthy people. We're not talking diabetics type 1 or 2. Either one of those, it's going to spike your blood sugars. But really it's going to increase your carbohydrate intake, which is essentially going to increase your calorie intake. So that's where you see like kind of, I see a lot of people get stuck with vegan and vegetarian. Well, it goes either one of two ways. So either they get stuck and they're not able to really lose weight super efficiently, or they're not able to keep weight on it. Especially I see this with vegans a lot. They're not able to keep weight on it all. A lot of times there's like hair loss because you're missing some vitamins and some minerals. So really, like if someone is switching to like a vegan or a vegetarian lifestyle, I recommend that they work with a dietitian because you do need to supplement, especially B12. You need to supplement usually vitamin D also, because a lot of like calcium and vitamin D fortified stuff. Really iron as well. You need to supplement, and you need to really pair it with citrus because vitamin C increases the uptake of iron. Okay. So very good. A lot of little things like that.
Cool. All right, and I am not trying to condemn or pull out the bad things about vegans and vegetarians. I'm just trying to give you guys the, the answers to a lot of questions I get. And, it's just assumed that, this person's skinny, and that's kind of sometimes the thing is, I've seen men, women, different people I've coached that have been vegetarians who are like, they're slim. They, they lack, they're not fat, let's say that. And then I'll have clients who are overweight and, and they're trying to and they want to know stuff about the vegetarian because they see their friend who's a vegetarian who's string bean, and then they're like, maybe that's for me, and I'm like, well, maybe. And then I've also seen people that are, I'm a vegetarian, I'm like, you're 90 pounds overweight, like I don't think that is the most ideal thing, or we need to change some things. And having the answers all the time when something I personally don't prefer is like difficult.
Yeah. So I think like sometimes like people are like, oh, I'm vegetarian, I'm gonna eat just the French fries when I go to McDonald's if I go to McDonald's with my friends, right? Even though McDonald's French fries do have beef fat in them. They're boiled in beef fat. So technically not vegetarian. But it depends on what restaurant you go to.
That's why they're so good.
That's why they're so good.
I haven't had fast food in a long time. I had it on the thruway one time.
I used to get it on
a year
that's
ago,
when it always happens,
and it was
right?
like amazing for the first burger, and by the time I finished the second one, I was like already sick, and I'm like driving away, and I'm like, maybe I should just pull the trigger and throw that back up. I don't feel very good right now.
Grilled chicken sandwich is where it's at, and then you can get the fries and not, blink an eye. Anyway. Thruway. It's definitely Thruway stuff.
Grilled chicken fingers.
I've never actually had Chick-fil-A, to be honest.
Oh my God,
no, me neither.
I'm addicted. There's something in their Diet Coke. It's like
probably
addicting.
Something you don't.
Probably something I don't want to know.
Probably is.
But hopefully it's just the aspartame, and then that's fine, right?
Yeah, sure. I guess. Whatever. So, that's one of those things where you go down the rabbit hole, and it depends on what people.
I know.
Yeah, some people will be anti-sugar or fake sugars to the point of like, hey, I don't think it's that serious, and then there'll be some people who are like no regard for it at all. I'm pretty sure if fake sugar kills you, I'm definitely gonna die.
Oh yeah.
It definitely messes you up, though. Some of it, I'm like surprised it's even allowed to be in products anymore.
Yeah.
Like digestive. I know one of my sisters. She has one bar with like fake sugar in it, and she's
done. Yeah.
Like it's not good.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the things you see most commonly as far as like sickness related to, or maybe that's not the right question. What are the most common things you see as far as clients that you see, what they're coming to you for?
You mean like as far as my private practice clients?
Yeah, I guess so in that case.
Okay.
Either one really, but just as you treat different patients for.
Yeah, so a lot of times, I'll see, weight loss is a big thing. I really wanted my private practice to focus on athletes, and I got a lot of weight loss people.
Yeah.
So, that's just, it's something that's needed. I think with COVID, I think a lot of people, I think you did one of two things in COVID. You either became healthier or you became more unhealthy. That's just the divide that I've seen. And you either took control of your health or you kind of just let it go.
I not only did not have the healthiest practices during COVID, but then at the end of it I had surgery, and that kind of put me right down a rabbit hole of like, well, I can't work out anyway, I might as well enjoy myself, and it's pretty easy for me to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you see a lot of people then in your private practice that are coming to you for weight loss. Mm-hmm. What is the biggest thing, or what are some of the commonalities they have that are most common to the people that are coming to you overweight? Problems what's causing it, I guess, is my question.
I would say lack of consistency is a huge thing, right? They'll try something for a month, drop off, be like, oh, I'm injured, but screw it, let me just eat whatever I want. Instead of just staying consistent throughout. I'm a big proponent of okay, you went on vacation this weekend. All right, Monday morning we're just getting back into our usual routine. We're starting back up. We're not going to worry about it. We're not going to let our Friday night dinner ruin the rest of our week. We're just going to pick up right where we left off on Monday. So I think lack of consistency is a huge thing. And I'm sure you see that with sport too, right?
I started to really be aggressive with how I preach. Hey, CrossFit doesn't work at all if you're not eating right. If you eat right, you can have multiplied great results. It also doesn't work if you just sporadically and randomly show up. If you show up 3 to 5 days a week, you can kind of predict positive results. Yeah. If you just come in every other Tuesday or here a Saturday and the following Thursday and then maybe another, it's the same thing. Yeah. I have no idea what's going to happen to you. You probably have a hard time every time you come in.
Yeah. Exactly. So I would say that the lack of consistency, and then I would say just including a variety of healthy foods. So I like to coach with the plate method also. So half of my plate should be fruits and vegetables, and then I should have a good portion of protein, and then I should have a carbohydrate in there. And if my plate doesn't look like that, what do I need to do to adjust it? I'm big with snacks. I'm a big thing with that because your snack should have a protein. It shouldn't just be popcorn. It should be popcorn plus something with protein in it, whether that's yogurt, whether that's jerky, whether that's anything, deli meat. Mm-hmm. I'm a big proponent of just making sure we include all the food groups in all of the meals of the day, snacks, full meals, whatever we're doing.
If I get a chance, Nina, I'm going to try to catch that fly.
I know.
One day it happened. We were doing a podcast together, and a fly came right at me. I caught it out of the air and threw it in the ground. It was amazing. Anyway.
We're never living that moment down. I didn't get it on video. It would be really great if we could just get it on video.
I looked up at her.
Play it for everyone.
I couldn't believe what had just happened. It was amazing.
Something out of the Karate Kid.
Yeah, it really was.
It literally was.
So, okay. Then I've seen, just recently I had a client that I'm coaching for some nutrition stuff, and he had a trainer who I thought prescribed him like probably 1/3 more protein than he even needed. He's not a very big guy. He was having like 270 grams of protein or something like that in a day. Yeah, I know. And he was like, this dude's like his natural weight probably should be somewhere around like 190 pounds. Like,
yeah.
And so, do you see that often? And how bad is that?
I never see protein that high.
Okay.
Like ever.
Now, this is a guy that was having trouble losing weight again. He's very muscular built dude, but he was like a bit overweight. 20, 30 pounds, he'd probably come down. Mm-hmm. And I said, we're talking about his diet history and stuff like that. And he's like, well, I had this other trainer, and this is the diet he gave me. And he sent me the stuff that the guy had sent him. And I was like, all right, don't fucking listen to that guy ever again. And then we did some stuff. But
please stop.
What are some of the side effects of if you see people eating way too much protein? Like, what are some of the downsides of that? Because I have seen that a handful of times, especially with guys.
So, like in the hospital, when I look at your labs, I can tell you right away if you're eating too much protein, because your UN and your creatinine labs are very high, which is not to be confused with creatine. I always, because I'm like, one brain works this side, one brain works this side with creatine supplementation in athletes. Creatinine is the lab level that we're looking at for your kidney function.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if anyone's seen, like, there was like a big Jillian Michaels thing that she was like, protein's so bad it's gonna destroy your kidney, and everyone was like, oh my god, please don't. But
my understanding was if you have healthy functioning kidneys, there's no side effect from the excess nitrogen and stuff from the digestion. But
when you get that high, there can be.
So extremes.
So usually, like, we're recommending I work in grams per kilogram. That's how all really medical research is done, because everything starts in Europe. Europe is way ahead of us in studies for pretty much everything. Mm-hmm. And everything's in kilograms. So I usually prescribe, it's usually, for like athletes or someone that's like high, like doing tons of workouts, it's usually like 1.8 to like 2.5 grams per kilogram. When you get up to like 3, that's when you start to see some issues with the kidneys.
So what does that come out to roughly for pound per body weight?
I don't know. My calculator's over there.
Ballpark? Yeah, I know, but because I just know that like people are going to hear all these grams in there. So
when I'm talking kilograms, you're going to multiply your body weight. No, wait, hang on. Divide your body weight by 2.2 to get kilograms.
Yes.
Some
of our Olympic lifters will know what to do, but I just...
Yeah. Don't you guys work in kilograms here?
Nah, we're Americans. Well, some of the Olympic lifters, especially, we have plates and stuff that are kilograms.
The plates are kilograms.
Some of them, but pounds.
I don't know. I just look at how thick it is. I'm like, that looks like it.
What color it is.
Okay. All right. Let's see. What are we looking for? What questions we got?
Well, I'm curious, like, how often do you see your private practice clients, or how often do you meet with them? When I was doing health coaching, I was trying to meet with my clients like twice a month, and I almost felt like that was not enough, but then some people it's too much.
Once a week.
Yeah.
I try to do, and I've been doing like strictly online coaching. My goal for this summer, I want to run a student athlete nutrition 6-week program. I can do it at my dad's gym in Buffalo on Saturdays. I'm looking for a place in Rochester to do it. So if anyone knows of anywhere,
I know a gym. No, really, that is something probably worth talking about. If you're looking for a place to, run a program.
Yeah, I would just love to run like a 6-week, like just to educate, because that's why I became a dietitian. I was a cross country runner, and I was eating wheat thins and bananas before my cross country, like for lunch that day, like a whole box of wheat thins and bananas. And I was like,
Because
this
when
is
you're
so
in
weird.
high school,
I'm gonna throw up afterwards. Like,
no
what?
one tells you.
Yes.
Like, I was an athlete in high school. I did soccer, track. After one of those practices, I was going on to Irish dance class.
Right, you would go to something after.
Dancing afterward, after class for however many hours. And I was eating like a bagel sandwich and a fudge round every day for lunch.
Dude, I used to cut weight for wrestling. It was just don't eat. Just do not eat until you make weight.
But that's, like, adolescents.
I'm not saying our
no
coaches
idea
told us to do that, but no one told us not to do that either.
Right.
Like other guys in the team would be like, "This is what my cousin told me to do," and we'd be like, "Okay, yeah, I'm gonna sleep in a garbage bag and sweat out stuff overnight."
Yeah, right.
But anyway.
So I mean, I had like huge issues with that, which where like I like was getting sick after every meet. I would get sick afterwards, and I was like, now I know it was because my glycogen stores were completely depleted, and that my body had nothing to run on.
Yeah.
So my goal is to educate, high school, college age athletes.
Okay. That's awesome.
So say again, I'm not the one to make decisions like this for the gym, but you're looking for a gym to do what in as far as your program?
So I want to do an in-person program because I am sick of looking at a computer screen. I don't know about anyone else. I can't do another online course.
Eyes are burning.
Nina was venting that earlier today.
I was like, my eyes are burning from all the Zooms.
And I notice if I don't wear my blue light glasses now.
Yes.
It's definitely mental. I don't think they're a real thing, but in my head they work.
I think they work. I think it's a little weird to take glasses off to put contacts in to then put other glasses on. I'm sure I could get blue light glasses. I don't know. Anyway,
so my goal is to run like a 6-week in-person course. I'm developing. Because like when I do it at my dad's gym, I'm not going to have like a projector with like a PowerPoint or anything like that on it. I'm developing like booklets that I'll send out in like PDF form to the kids, and then we'll go through like a different topic every week. So my goal is to start with, I have this all planned out in my Google Documents. My goal is to start with like a general nutrition thing, and then we'll get into different topics like supplementation and hydration, and there's specific dates that I have.
I think that's awesome. We should definitely talk about possibly doing that here, and we'll see if we can set something up for you. I mean,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't make the final decisions on stuff like that, but it's definitely worth talking about. And who knows who around in our gym already would be interested in that, or if kids that are interested. I think that stuff's great. We need more of that all the time.
Yeah, I definitely, and I think that there's so much misinformation about nutrition that it's overwhelming to me, and I'm literally a professional. This is my whole life.
I know. I've been working as a personal trainer and health coach stuff for almost getting close to 10 years almost. And I'm finally, sometimes it seems like I'm getting a comprehensive understanding after putting the pieces together for the last half a decade.
Yeah.
And it's like all the times I've accidentally given bad advice because I was getting bad advice from the things I was learning, or just outdated information.
Well, I was gonna say too, like the industry has changed a lot also, and the message and the research and like how food is produced, all the things has changed a lot in the last 10 years.
I also think it depends on your circle, right? So like, especially like what you're seeing on social media, like Instagram and stuff, like if you're following people that are doing research, then that's what you're going to see. But if you're following someone who's Joe Schmo that, lost 30 pounds himself and this is exactly how he does it, then it's going to fall off the wagon there. My biggest pet peeve is when people do, here's what I eat in a day. And I'm like, we could all eat the same thing and we're not going to look like you. Like, it drives me crazy.
Yeah. Bio-individuality.
Oh, yes.
Because the answer for every nutrition question really is, it depends.
It depends. I have a great client. He's actually a guy that was a hard gainer. He weighs about 15 pounds more than when we first started, but I mean, he is still a lean, slim guy. But he is constantly asking great questions all the time. Wants to know about this, wants to know about that. And I always start with, well, if you are you, this is going to be okay. And if you're, this person over here, they really shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. And I try to explain why and stuff. And he always asks great questions. And I feel like he must, at this point, know that I'm about to go, well. Yep. And then take a deep breath.
Like every day.
It depends answer.
Well.
So let's say we got the middle-aged population, 40s plus, 50s plus, we got handfuls of members like that. Any particular health problems or, nutrition concerns to note for people in those demographics that become more prominent?
I think especially women in that demographic, is when they get very frustrated with it's harder to lose weight. It's simple as that. As soon as you go through menopause, it's going to be harder to lose weight. Your hormones change, everything changes. I also think that currently that generation of people was brought up in the low fat, low sugar, instead of just fitting foods into there. So that's what I see when I work with that demographic a lot, is like, we can eat some carbohydrates. It's gonna be, your body needs it. And every single time they come back, they're like, oh my God, I had so much energy this week. And I'm like, weird.
Wonder why that is.
Yeah.
And so we, in that same demographic with the men, we see a lot of the testosterone like fall off as just natural aging. Yeah. Is there anything nutritionally they can be doing to kind of head that off or limit the side effects?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
As far as hormone balance and that kind of thing, just keeping yourself eating enough food has a huge role in it. We talk about that with like women's health and PCOS and that kind of thing too. Mm-hmm. It's keeping your body fed is going to be the biggest thing you can do. Just
fed enough, nutritiously dense food.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to continue.
I was just going to say, I see people come in way too often eating 900, 1,200 calories. And when I bump them up to like 1,600, 1,800, they're like, oh my God. I'm like, it's going to be okay. We just have to we have to adjust your body to eating real food first, and then we'll work on the weight loss.
Obviously, genetics are a huge impact. How much, though, is genetics your determinant? Is it something we have complete control over, or is it something we're totally fucked over by, or somewhere in between?
I think it's somewhere in between. I mean, I don't. Definitely, your genetics don't control you, right? You still make choices every single day, and those choices either help you or they hurt you. But genetics, as far as even a lot of when I think of genetics, I think of bone structure. Some people are just built to carry more weight on their body, and that's just how they're built. Bigger hips,
Yeah, makes sense. As far as I said, there are some people who just seem to gain weight so easily. Is that particularly a genetic thing, or is it just maybe a conditioning to what they've eaten in the past?
It could be that. It could be people honestly worrying about the scale a ton, or eating too high of sodium. That's what I see when people weigh themselves every day, is all of a sudden it'll be 5 pounds in one day, and I'm like, okay, did we eat chips, or did we eat, not even chips, but something salty? And our body's holding that fluid and retaining that fluid, and throughout the week you see it fall off. I see that with people, when you go out and have a night of partying where you're drinking alcohol, you're gonna wake up 5 pounds heavier in the morning, I promise.
I don't know, sometimes I wake up hyper dehydrated and looking lean as shit. I'm just like, yo,
that's a guy thing, because my boyfriend does the same. He's like, I lost 2 pounds last night. I'm like, what?
There's times I've been
I drank the same
I can barely talk, but my abs look great.
Oh.
Now I need to chug a gallon of water and go back to bed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that salt thing, for example, that's an interesting topic that sometimes is debated. People always think that if they eat salt, or if they don't avoid it till it's some type of poison, that they're going to retain water and be bloated, and can you speak to that a little bit and just clarify what the salt and retaining water really means?
So there's definitely, if you eat a ton of salt, there's definitely water retention.
Is this water retention in the muscle, or right on your belly, or how's that retention happen?
It is in the cells. So when I'm talking and I'm thinking about I work with rehydration supplements a lot in my hospital patients and my private practice clients. So those supplements are designed to increase your water uptake in the cell. So that is improved with glucose, and the glucose promotes the water uptake in the cell. When I'm talking water, I'm talking sodium and magnesium and potassium. All the electrolytes are improved. So it depends on what you're mixing the salt with also. So if you're having, I'm thinking my personal self, my classic is a margarita. My ankles will swell up every time I drink a margarita, and it's because of the sugar and the salt.
A whole pizza.
Yep.
Over here.
Yep, and it's because there's glucose. Yep, the carbohydrates are broken down.
Puffy eyes.
You would talk about good genetics.
Feeling
my ankle's looking
fluffy
tight.
in the center.
Yeah, but I mean, I have people that I prescribe that have these like terrible hospital conditions where I'm like, you're going to drink water with salt in it because I need you to have salt in your cells.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
So in rehydration, being hydrated tends to be one of those things we associate with energy. Mm-hmm. Like, is that so for people who are training hard, especially this summer? Like, and we do some pretty tough workouts. We sweat bullets. We're soaking shirts. We're just leaving sweat puddles on the ground.
Yeah.
Should it really be just common practice to take a rehydrate supplement right after those kind of workouts? Pretty much every time.
Yeah, I really think so.
I had not realized how much better I would feel doing that until I started doing it probably last summer when I own a company that paints a lot of houses and stuff, and it was just so hot in July last year. Every day I was just chugging. I was drinking more than a gallon of water. I was rehydrate supplementing.
Yeah.
But the days I wouldn't, I could barely like move the next day. It was like living under the ocean.
Yeah, and water doesn't always do it.
Yeah, it wasn't plain water. It was I would use like different rehydrate brands, different ones. Sometimes ones they just sell at the Wegmans checkout. But
I have a whole spreadsheet comparing all this.
Do you have any particular that
do you now?
I do. Yes, I have a whole spreadsheet.
So when you're giving your plan or your seminar.
Yeah.
This summer.
I should.
Here
Someone
at
should
Nova
sponsor me. But honestly, I really love Liquid IV. That's and I know that's like when I tell clients that, they're like, that TikTok thing or that Instagram. I'm like, yes, I have done the research. It has the most electrolytes like per package, and it has the most like other like extra stuff. So it also has chloride and some magnesium, which is you also need to replace, which some of the other like Gatorade doesn't have. That Gatorade has potassium and sodium. So
interesting. They sell that at Wegmans too.
Liquid IV? Well, I didn't know about that. I'm going on that.
Yep, it's in the Nature's Marketplace. I saw it.
And that company accidentally sent me 120 packets extra last summer. I'm not mad about it. I still have to.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's my after long run.
Yeah.
Drink, for sure.
Are you training for a race or anything right now?
No. My goal, so I actually just finished 12 weeks of like an Olympic lifting program, and then my goal is to reduce lifting to 3 days a week and to increase my running again. Mm-hmm. I way overdid running at the beginning of COVID. Like I ran like 3 half marathons in a month or something like that.
There was literally nothing else to do.
Yeah.
I even started running again. I was like, this hurts everything, but
yeah.
I'm going to do it because it's just cardio and I feel like this is
all I can
needs
do.
It.
Yeah. Yeah, so I burned myself out on that. So I haven't really ran all winter, but now we're going to pick it back up. That's like my love in life.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, what other questions do we have? I feel like I don't want to keep it too long. I know it's almost 7:30-ish, right?
We got about 10 minutes.
Okay, cool.
But, I wanted to know, you mentioned like women's hormonal health and working with people with PCOS. Do you have a lot of patients or clients that are trying to kind of fix their hormones through a nutrition protocol, or?
I personally do not, but I know of a lot of dietitians that work specifically with that. I can let you know. I can send them to you if you want.
I'm just curious for anyone out there.
Yeah, because there's definitely some pretty good research on it. I haven't done the research, honestly.
Yeah. All good.
I listened to your podcast for 2 weeks ago, just because I was like, I wonder what they're going to ask me today.
Yeah.
You asked about collagen.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So you sent me down a rabbit hole of research.
Oh, my God. Yes, please do, because Marissa gave us her opinion.
Oh, really?
And I would love to hear yours, because...
So hopefully they match up. But my opinion is just eat enough protein, and then the collagen. Well, you don't really need the collagen supplement. But, so the problem that I found in the research that I did with the collagen supplement is that they actually found there's not a ton of studies. It's still like in the beginning stages.
Yeah.
But they did find that some of it was good. It did show hydration in the dermis cells. So I was going
to say the elasticity of my skin. It's definitely bouncier.
That's where I was. I was just listening about collagen. I'm like, where was I listening to collagen?
It's like skin, hair, nails.
E.C. Sikowski was talking about today on her blog.
But a lot of the research in it is actually in osteoarthritis, which I think is super interesting.
Oh, interesting. Because of the joint health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a question. This relates to one of my personal training clients. Chronic, like, it's not rheumatoid arthritis, but it's like an inflammatory response. He gets it in his knee a lot, periodically. It'll go in remission for 2 years. Anything that you would recommend somebody's having like a lot of arthritic inflammation?
So as far as like inflammation and
you could be doing nutritionally anyway.
There is some stuff with like tart cherry juice. There's a pretty good, decent amount of research on it. But it has to be like very specifically like tart cherry juice,
pure.
Not like
not cherry juice that has like
cherry juice cocktail.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's some stuff with turmeric as well. But turmeric in pill form. But I also have seen allergic reactions with that, like body rashes.
I was always skeptical. I'm always skeptical is when they take great foods like turmeric or other things and then they put them in these pill forms and sell them as supplements. It always seems so sales pitchy that I'm like,
you could just sprinkle it on your food with some black pepper.
Well,
but the research is in a higher volume of it, so that's where why they do the pill, I think. But like I said,
I thought about doing that for myself a few times, but I'm always like, I feel like I'm being sold some bullshit, so I just don't always, because it just seems like, oh, now turmeric's the hot new food that they're pitching. And I'm like, maybe this because it's real, maybe it's because it's some, I don't know.
There is a lot more research in the tart cherry juice, I can definitely tell you that.
Tart cherry juice is tough to drink. It is tart.
It's not, I mean, take it like a shot, like just...
Oh, shots? I like that.
That's how you gotta do it. I think that, I want to say, I read this article about it, it was probably 6 months ago, but I want to say it was 2 ounces. So 2 shots.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to play with both those. See, the turmeric and the tart cherry juice. I've had just little things from overuse injury. Like, I'm very, very, very active. I have to eat a lot of food every day to just not burn myself out.
You should come try one of his classes. He puts on a whole.
I do. I have a Whoop strap that registers my coaching class is this, like, an activity of strain.
Yeah.
But I'm...
My sister,
I'm an entertainer.
It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying. Like,
my sister works for 9 Rounds Boxing in Charlotte. She's just a trainer there, but she's like, "Oh my God, Courtney! Like when she first started working, she's like, I have like 25,000 steps, and all I did was go to work." And I'm like, "Yeah, did you eat something today?"
It's tough, and undereating is. I got really in tune to it maybe a couple years ago. I started, or not even a couple years ago, like a year and a half ago, and I started wearing Whoop, and I was kind of questioning how accurate it was tracking calories, and then I started to eat my calories in line with what I was seeing in Whoop, and I was like, wow, this is way better than like just I didn't realize how much I was under eating because I didn't realize how much I was truly burning and people say, oh well, you're climbing ladders, you're working out, you're doing all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, I've always been like, very active, and then when I started eating enough, like I have to eat like usually around like 35-ish 100 calories, sometimes more, but sometimes it can get close to 5,000 burned in a day, and those next days, if I don't eat enough, I mean, I can't. I'm just wiped. But then when I do eat enough, I'll train another day. I'll just keep going, burning the candle at both ends. But
I think that's interesting that you say that because you're a tracker. Because usually I tell people to ignore their tracker.
See, I kind of didn't take it serious for a while. Yeah. And I didn't put a lot of. And then I just started being like, well, what happens if I just try to sync up the calories in, calories out, according to Whoop? And then, man, it's been a big difference. And then after I gained a little bit of weight from my little holiday binges post surgery, and then not really being on top of my game in COVID, I probably was 10-ish. I just did about 500 calories under whatever the Whoop said every day. Never had a problem, felt good, and I took weight right down to a nice little lean level. I think, basing it all off of Whoop. So.
I haven't.
Whoop, Whoop can send me a kickback for promoting this year.
Right?
But I wouldn't say it if I didn't, at least according to my numbers and everything I was doing. I don't know if it works for everyone, but I was surprised at how accurate it seemed anyway.
Yeah, because
I have had Fitbits in the past. I have had, and those were unreliable. I didn't think those were accurate at all.
Yeah, that's
the thing too about the tracker on this is it's only counting my activity calories. So this says, what does it say for today? 690 calories. I
for your activity,
during while moving. So any walks, my workout.
Yeah.
all that stuff. But I'm like, if someone were to just look at that, they'd be like, oh, I'm not really burning much
right
at all. So,
but the Apple Watch, the thing that bothers me the most about them is the O2 saturation levels. I'm like, anyone who's ever been in an exercise fitness lab knows that you have to be hooked up to that disgusting mask with the ventilator, with the hole, and you're like suffering.
And they're just doing it.
And you're telling me that I could have just worn my watch?
Yeah, is it just with the pulse? Like
I think so.
The like steadiness or the volume of your blood, I would guess.
Yeah. Something like that.
Interesting. This watch does not give me my blood oxygen level.
Whatever the fancy new one is.
Yeah. I mean, if I get to tracking that stuff, I mean, I
I'd
better go to the NFL, or something,
I know. I don't know why the regular individual would need to track that on a daily basis, but hey, to each their own.
Fair enough. Well, I do want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate you coming in to talk about this stuff.
Thank you so much.
I'd love to have you again. This was actually, I found this to be a pretty fun podcast. You were well prepared. We're new to this. We're kind of figuring it out as we go. But thank you is my point. And where can people follow you on social media? Because we follow you. It's Devour Your Life Nutrition, right? Is that the name of your business?
The Instagram is devouryourlife.nutrition.
Okay.
But yes, devouryourlifenutrition.com is my website, and I just started a weekly newsletter because I know, Instagram algorithm, not everyone sees everything, so I try to include different stuff on the newsletter, and that is where I will have updates about if I end up with this 6-week training program or other, programs.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you about that. Now, are you taking on new clients for nutrition coaching and things if you're approached?
I am still open right now for one-on-one clients. When I start this program, I'm going to have to cut back. So for the summer, I probably have 2 to 3 more spots open right now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you heard it. You can contact devouryourlife.nutrition. Get your nutrition coaching in.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We'll have you again soon.